Okay, we are recording, so we are live. All right, so good afternoon again. My name is Lisa Spence. I'm your host for the NAL First Thursday program today. And our speaker today is going to be Ms. Amelia Kleiman from Space Center Houston. So many of you already know this, but the NASA Alumni League has had a very long-standing relationship with Space Center Houston. And we've had a lot of impact, both in terms of volunteering as well as in some monetary help that we provide. So Amelia is going to bring us a little bit of information about the latest highlights from Space Center Houston and things that are of mutual interest to all of us. So Amelia has served in the development office of Space Center Houston since spring of 2023. Her focus is in connecting prospects, members, and donors to discuss supporting Space Center Houston and securing planned gifts to ensure the legacy of human spaceflight is preserved for future generations. So I think that's something that we can all agree with, right? She has over 30 years of experience in fundraising, including planned giving, major gifts, and capital campaigns. She's a published author and a much sought after speaker on a myriad of topics in fundraising, nonprofit leadership, as well as consulting. She received a BA from the University of Denver and has an MBA and JD from the University of Houston. So, yep, she's a lawyer. Be careful what you say. She practiced law for 8 years before transitioning to nonprofit work, and this is really her happy space. She has never been happier. So Amelia is a third-generation native Houstonian whose family happened to have a weekend home in Bay Cliff for over 75 years, so a neighbor. She's also an active community volunteer, the proud mom to Brett, her son, who lives in Washington, D.C., and a daughter, Jacqueline, who is a junior at the best university in the United States. Go Sun Devils. She loves to travel, especially to baseball stadiums. Woman after my own heart. She only has 5 baseball stadiums left to visit. She also enjoys traveling to national parks, especially in the Western United States. So I am going to go ahead and bring her up to speak and get her slides ready to go for you.
Thank you.
Okay, oops. One problem, hang on a sec. Yeah, this is our perennial problem. Stop the second.
Well, stand by. We've lost the Gilruth Center and Lisa on Zoom, but I've texted her. We're trying to get them back online.
Landing happened. And I was one of the little kids that was running around to all of the foreign TV stations and the foreign media, knocking on their doors of their trailers. Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something? And I was one of the ones, and they finally, I think the Japanese finally took pictures of me and my brother, and we got to talk about being here and being at NASA. So it's in my blood, and that's what I wanted to let y'all know. And you guys are really the heart and soul of some of what happens, not just here at NASA, but also at Space Center Houston. And as you know what you were started for. You were established with certain similar visions to what eventually Space Center Houston was started with. You were formed in 1989 and we were formed in 1992. And you were under the direction of JSC Director Jerry Griffin, who helped start y'all. And the founding group, the notes that I found say that you were an organization for NASA civil servant alumni to continue to be engaged with NASA and to keep the past workforce connected, and specifically were organized to support the space program with technical expertise. They could call y'all in if they needed to, and to provide educational outreach to the community, which y'all have beautifully done, and to make financial contributions to STEM organizations. And that too, y'all have lived up to all of those things that you. I think it was very interesting that some of the objectives of NASA alumni when y'all first started were to participate in community services that support JSC activities, to support historic preservation of NASA that inspire students to pursue STEM careers, and to provide financial support to STEM organizations. And I guess most of you already know that, but interestingly enough, those are many of the same reasons that the group that
So Lisa reports that her Zoom has crashed, and we're trying to see if we can get it going. Stand by.
Converged. And that was when we got our very first gift that y'all gave from NASA Alumni League that came to Space Center Houston in the amount of nearly $2,500. It was made at year end in 2005, and it was a grant that was to be used for STEM. And in the following 8 years, we had gifts totaling $14,000. There were 8 gifts, and they totaled $14,000. And they all made very significant impact on the work, the STEM work that we were doing while we were still in our maturing stage. We weren't quite a teenager yet. We were just very young. Still in 2005, we were barely 92, 23 years old. But 23, because that's how old my daughter is. 23 is still pretty young, I think. You know, they don't really know everything, but they're getting there. Then we had the following years, starting in March of 2017, the grants from the NASA Alumni League were increased to $6,000 annually, which funds 1,000 students per year to come to Space Center Houston on field trips. So in 2017, 2018, and 2019, there were 3 grants. So we had close to 3,000 students in those 3 years come through the doors and be able to say that they were funded by you guys and we helped them see, hear, and feel everything that they could about what was going on in NASA, because that's what our job is to tell the story of NASA and human spaceflight. Then we were very blessed in 2019. You made probably one of the most important gifts that we got, and that also happened for our community, which was a grant of $10,000 to help fund the renovation, revitalization, and restoration of the original mission control. It was soon accessible to all Space Center Houston visitors through our tram tours. This past year, how many of you know how many people have taken our tram tours in 2025? We hit a milestone. We had 1,000,003 visitors. So how many people do you think took tram tours? Take a guess.
1,000,003.
Close. It was actually we finally hit a milestone, and we have 4 different tram tours that go from Space Center Houston over to NASA. and we hit 1 million visitors taking, out of the 1.3 million, we had 1 million visitors taking transfers. Now that could have been, you know, a couple people taking all 4 of the transfers, which is fine, but we hit 1 million visitors. So it's very exciting. And in 2024 alone, Space Center Houston had nearly 200,000 of that 1 million visitors experience MOCR as it was when quite a few of you were there working on July 20th, 1969. How many of you were there on July 20th, 1969, working? There you go. And I was there running around outside yelling, take my picture, take my picture. So anyway, these 4 gifts, as I've said, were very, very meaningful to Space Center Houston. And it really helped us move forward and go to the next level. Then beginning in 2020, the NAL and Space Center Houston strengthened our collaboration with grants for education and a lot of volunteer work from NASA alumni members. After the 2019 gift to MOCR, a grant of $6,000 was made specifically to help underserved, under-resourced students from Title I public schools in the greater Houston area be able to come for field trips, which all very much specified what you wanted that to go for. And I think that was exactly the kinds of things that when you were established, that was what you were meant to do. And when we were established, that's what we were meant to do. We were meant to make sure that as many people as could possibly learn about space flight got to see that. So in all, in just 20 years, from 2005 to 2025, over 9,000 students have been able to come to visit Houston, Space Center Houston on field trips because of the impactful gifts that you have made, totaling almost $68,000. And that does not include the $10,000 for MOCR. So altogether about almost $80,000 in those 20 years. The students who come are inspired. They're excited by what they see and hear and touch, and they leave with a sense of wonder. Many of them leave with a belief that they too can become part of NASA's workforce, whether it's through STEM education or some other career path that will take them in and work at NASA. How many of you work at NASA in STEM careers? How many of you have worked at NASA in something other than a STEM career? Can you tell me what you did? Budgeting, okay. Bill?
I did some remote sensing.
Okay. And there's I don't know how many of you have ever met oh God, I'm drawing a blank what her name is, but she was one of the sewers and one of the dressers for the astronauts, and she was actually the one that helped Mae Jameson get dressed. So those are careers that sometimes people think, oh, I have to get a STEM career, I have to get a science or technology or engineering or math, or I can't work for NASA. Well, that's not true. We have people who are accountants, we have people who are sewers, who are making the uniforms and the spacesuits. We have people who are photographers who are helping with the photography. I know that I heard Don Pettit speak when he came back in the spring, and he was talking about all the photography that he took up on space. And he was talking about the fact that, you know, that was at the time when a lot of the Aurora Borealis was just all over the United States and all over places where it hadn't been before. And he had requested that in one of the supply ships that they send him some extra photography equipment so that he could take special pictures. And I don't know if you've been over, if you've looked online, some of the pictures from Don were tremendous, but he had to have special lenses sent up to him so that he could do that. Well, somebody at NASA had to be the one to collect those lenses and figure that out and find it and send them up there for him. So we're happy that they did, because I don't think we'll get those kind of pictures all the time. So we keep growing. This relationship between NASA Alumni League and Space Center Houston keeps growing. Over the years, there have been many, many members of the Alumni League who have worked, and their families have worked to make a real difference to our, this is a typo. I finally found a typo in one thing. We made a real difference for our nearly 1.3 million annual volunteers. That's not right. It's our annual visitors. We see a 1.3 million visitors a year. We are hoping that when I get to the point where I'm going to tell you about what the future holds, we're hoping to get to 2 million in the next 10 years. And we were just named one of the top 20 museums in all of the United States. So that was quite an honor. And it's not just science museums, it's all museums. So we were up against the Museum of Modern Art and some of the other big science centers too. But we were named one of the top 20 museums in the United States. So that's why we know and we feel strongly that our visitor numbers will go up. Now members serve in a variety of places throughout Space Center Houston as volunteers, providing firsthand knowledge of their time at NASA, and they share their stories of human spaceflight, which was headquartered here at JSC. How many of you are Space Center Houston volunteers? And I know there's a bunch of them that I left that were still working when I was taken off. So I know that y'all have about because our volunteer office does not keep the records of exactly who worked where, but we know that there are at least several dozen volunteers currently working at Space Center Houston that are NASA alumni, and we really appreciate all of that work. In addition, recently, there has been a lot more opportunities for you guys to come in and to help as speakers for our membership team when they have member events. And so we've had over 24 NASA volunteers, NASA alumni volunteers, who have assisted the membership team with just a wide variety of programs for our visitors. They've done member mornings, they've done programs as speakers, they've done opportunities to take people around as guides and talk about some of what they see in like Destiny Theater and not Destiny Theater, Destiny Gallery and some of the other places around, and just kind of tell the story of what each of you did at NASA to get NASA off the ground and to share how we are getting ready to head back to the moon and to Mars and beyond. And did you know that there were two spacecraft, not manned, but two spacecraft recently that landed on the south pole of the moon and that are there now and that are just waiting for our astronauts when they get there to the south pole. So we've got our fingers crossed that they still keep up and running between now and when our astronauts actually land on the moon, which we think is probably 2028, 2029. So as you can tell, when I was doing my research and looking through all of this, ours is really one of the most important partnerships and collaborations that we have out in the community. We really couldn't tell the stories that have to be told to keep the history of the past, the present, and the future of human space flight alive and relevant without the help of the members of the NASA Alumni League. And we really thank you every day for helping our visitors learn what's important and what's relevant. So where do we go from here? There's a lot that's still out there. There's a lot that we can still do to strengthen, grow, and expand the collaboration that we have. We hope that many of you and others will continue to serve as volunteers. We've really got a lot that we have to do. We have, like today, I want to say there were like at least 30 field trips that were there, and that are students, that are young students all the way up to high school students, and they could really use people who can tell them the story. In addition, how many of you know about our Conrad Challenge? And where? Okay, so let me talk for a second about the Conrad Challenge. The Conrad Challenge was started by Pete Conrad's wife, And she set it up over 20 years ago, about the same time we were all getting started. She set it up as an entrepreneurial innovators challenge with the goal of expanding it to as many teams around the world as possible. In 2024, we had 5,000 students from 52 countries participate from at the beginning, and then it's whittled down through stages. They go through stages, and there are five different categories, and I'm not going to be able to remember all 5 of them. I know water, energy, aerospace, cybersecurity, and I think one more, and that's the one I can never remember. Anyway, there are 5 categories, and they have to apply their experiment, their whatever they're building, whatever they're doing, to one of those 5 categories. And then they are mentored throughout by alumni of the Conrad Challenge, and then they're judged by people who have a knowledge and an ability to do the judging in those areas. And they are then whittled down to about 200 teams from the initial of the 5,000. It comes out to usually about 13 to 1,400 teams from around the world. And it's whittled down to the top 200 teams, and they come and they spend a week at Space Center Houston, typically in April, and they have Shark Tank kinds of visits with patent attorneys. They meet with financial planners. They talk to other people about how to get out and market and sell their products. I know that there's one product that I'm very familiar with because my daughter has actually used it, my 23-year-old who was in college up until recently. And it is one of the things that helps girls make sure that they don't get caught with alcohol being given to them that's a date rape drug, has date rape drugs in it. And it's fingernail polish that you literally dip into the glass of whatever you're drinking, and if it turns black, can't wear black nail polish, I guess. But if it turns black, that means there's a drug in it, and you don't drink it. And the 4 young men that invented that sold that patent and have made millions. And it's still being used in colleges across the country, and it's being recommended by college counselors so that when girls and guys are going out, they don't get caught in that kind of situation. But those are the kinds of things that are taking place through the Conrad Challenge. And we would really, really love, we need, not just we would love it, but we are always in need of more judges and more mentors. So please, you can go on the Space Center Houston website, look up Conrad Challenge, and it'll send you right there. We're the end of November is when we're trying to get all the judges in by, because you have to go through some training for the judging that starts taking place the first part of January. So some of the judging of the contestants, I guess, the nominees. And it's really about innovation. It's about creativity. It's about entrepreneurship. And they are really learning incredible skills that are really tied to many of the skills that you guys, when you were here at NASA, were using to run and make sure that things happened correctly, or that if there was some kind of a problem, you knew how to fix it. And that's what a lot of the students that participate in the Conrad Challenge, that's what Nancy Conrad wanted to make sure these students got those same skills that her husband Pete got when he was an astronaut. So how many of you knew Pete? There you go. Ken, thank you. Yeah, he had a learning disability, and that was one of the reasons why Nancy was so insistent that this be the kind of project that she wanted to have his name on. So it's kind of exciting to see over 5,000 this year. So far, we know over 5,000 students from around the world have applied. I know a couple of years ago, one of the teams that won was a group of young girls from Hong Kong, and they created Band-Aids that were specialized Band-Aids that someone who got hurt or got cut on the ISS could use, and the blood wouldn't flow because of the oxygen exchange. The blood wouldn't flow out of the Band-Aids. It would stay and it would coagulate because of the Band-Aids that they created. It's pretty impressive. It was 4 young women from Hong Kong. So very exciting. So that's something we want y'all to think about. Please think about becoming judges for Conrad and finding other ways to help in our education programs. They're always looking for people to help that for summer camps and for other programs. We had a girl that we had a woman she set up a scholarship in her father's name. He had been a engineer at NASA. He had been in charge of thermal heat shields and for one of the Apollo air thing. And the scholarship winner for the scholarship named after him turned out to be a young woman who came to one of our summer camps last summer, and she won the project for her camp, and it was on thermal heat shields. It just so happened that was what happened, but we don't know that that's going to happen every time, but it was pretty exciting. And I can tell you that the family that set up that scholarship in their dad's name had no idea that, here 40 years later, someone would win under her dad's name. And that would be the same thing that he worked on. So anyway, that's important too, the education program. Also, we are currently the primary repository of artifacts and stories of the history of the past, present, and future of human spaceflight as the home of human spaceflight. And I know that members of NASA Alumni League can help contribute to preserving that legacy and the successes and the victories and the challenges that have taken place at JSC by sharing your stories of the work that you did there, and where you have artifacts, you could share those with us as well. Now, I know some of you have done oral history projects that was at NASA, and we thank you for that. And I know right now that website has been taken down, and it's very hard. It is still out there for all those who did oral histories, but it is very hard to get to them because they have been taken down off the NASA website. Some of you have also donated your papers to UH Clear Lake, which is the JSC archive for papers. We don't accept papers, but we accept artifacts. So that's kind of the difference. And we work with NASA, we work with UH Clear Lake, where they get things that are artifacts, they usually give them to us, and when we get papers, we give them to them. So we try and work together to make sure that they're all in the right places. And as we talk about our expansion, I'll tell you what some of the things are that hopefully we're going to do with some of those artifacts. But for those of you who have not had it, you didn't ever have a chance to do your oral history through the NASA program, we are beginning, Space Center Houston is beginning its own oral history project. It's a video project, and we're going to be doing it of really how Space Center Houston began. And we were started obviously by some members of the flight directors and the mission, the gentlemen who were in charge of the missions, not the flight directors, but the other ones, mission directorate. And we really are trying to get as many of those names and many of those people, get a video project done, and there will be a kiosk that will have those videos on them that will be on display that people can read through or scroll through and hear the stories directly from the person's interview. We are hoping to complete the first round, and I say that because we're finding new people all the time that were involved in the original beginnings of Space Center. But we're hoping to complete it and have the kiosk ready by 2027, which will be our 35th anniversary. And so that's the goal, is by 2027 to have that kiosk up and ready. And some of you may be asked, to please play a role and to give us an oral history. And we really appreciate it if you can do that. So as Space Center Houston grows and expands with our plans for our new facilities master plan, we hope to expand the stories that we include to tell all of the behind the scenes of people helping NASA become the success. And that means we need each of you to share those histories of what you did to make NASA great and to make it what it was. Your work really is an inspiration to all of us, to all of the people out there. I know that sometimes you may not realize that, but the lessons that you learn and the lessons that you can tell during your time at NASA really did lay the foundation and are laying the foundation for future innovators and trailblazers to keep your work going and to make it relevant to today. And so for that, we thank you very much. I think the next one, I'm gonna go this one first and then I'll come back. So how many of you have any idea what this is? This is actually Space Center Houston. You can't tell? This right here is the main Space Center Houston as it is right now. This is what we're planning on adding. And there's other parts of it. There will be a 7-phase capital campaign of building a new adding on. We're not taking down anything that's currently there, but we will be adding on facilities starting in 2027, which is our 35th, as I said, our 35th year. These will be garages. So the parking that we have now, we can be able to use for expansion, and the parking that we have in the back we can use for expansion. This will be where the current shuttle and 7-4 would be housed. However, we know that there's been some possibility that something else may come from Washington, and we don't know when or if or what. They have 18 months to make a final decision about what's going to happen. And if that happens, the way that this looks will change somewhat, but not tremendously. The reason is because it's going to be kind of hard to fit two big shuttles and a 747 in this hall. So we'll have to expand back a little bit, over a little bit. They've got some plans in the works. As I told Lisa, this right here is kind of a proprietary thing. We're not sharing this out with a lot of people, but y'all are not a lot of people. Y'all are our family. So we can share this with you and tell you that we are very excited that we are moving forward with these plans, and that a couple of things that we've talked about that will be part of that, in addition to covering the shuttle and the 7-4, there will be one area that goes from the main lobby back into this area that will be called the Hall of Heroes. And many of you hopefully will be recognized. That will be where we put that kiosk with the stories on it. That will be hopefully where we can get some of the stories that NASA has and put it in there, because those stories are critical to telling the story of who we are as Space City. Houston as Space City is nothing without NASA. And so who we are and what we do and where we go and where the future takes us really depends on us growing. Part of the reason for this growth isn't just because we want to build another pretty building. Our building was originally built for 700,000 people a year to come through. And we're seeing double that right now. So there are days where we call them distress days. You can imagine if you tried to put 30 individuals in the ISS, it would get a little crowded. And they would be a little distressed. They would be probably a little upset. Well, we don't want our visitors to have that, especially if it rains in Houston, which occasionally it rains in Houston. So we don't want them to have to feel like they're crammed in. So we really need to grow and expand so that we can reach that projected 2 million visitors and have them be comfortable in the space. This is going to double the current space that we have. In addition, we see 300,000 students a year through a variety of different camps, programs, field trips, international programs. We are currently having classes that we do internationally, remotely, with 7 countries in Latin America and South America, and two in Europe and 1 in Asia. The 2 in Europe are right now Italy and Austria, and the 1 in Asia is India. And our teachers work remotely with these students throughout a whole semester. And at the end of the semester, these international students come visit JSC and NASA and take a class here for a week and get to see and feel and touch what really happens. And it's pretty exciting when we have those international visitors come. So of the 300,000 students, I want to say about 1,000, if not more, a year are international students. But here's what happens. So many people want to participate that as soon as we open our camp programs, usually in February, we open the programs for camps for the summer. Within 3 days, many of especially the classes for middle school and high school students, many of them were sold out. Last year, sadly, we had over 1,000 students on waiting lists to get into our camps in the summer. And so without additional education space, we are not going to be able to serve those students. Now, I will tell you one exciting thing that is we can speak about. It's not on this picture, but we're in the process, thanks to NASA, they gave us a already used, it was previously occupied, the payload distribution lab that was in building 9 that was used to train Apollo and the initial ISS astronauts. They decided they didn't really need any more. They had a smaller one that they could use at building 9. So they gave us the PDL. The PDL is currently in the process of being built. A building is being built around it, as we did with Skylab, but a building is being built around it as we speak. It should open by the beginning of January, if not mid-January. It will be a brand new education facility. It will have 3 additional classrooms. It will have a full scale science lab, because we do have Dr. Kumlala, I think that's his name. And we have Andrea Ortiz, who's our science manager. And then we have Megan MacArthur, who's our chief scientist in residence. Many of you know Megan. And so there will be a real science lab plus the PDL, actual lab itself. So there will be 5 additional spaces for us to have students come to, which is very, very exciting. Ken, here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a walkway. There's not going to be a bridge. So we can't we'll figure out something with your sign, but there's going to be a walkway over to Rocket Park. So we can't do that. Ken wanted to give us a beautiful, very cute sign to put as you went underneath, the trams went underneath, but the trams are going to be at Rocket Park and you're going to walk over there. So it changes a little bit, but that's okay. I want to go back for a second. I want to talk about, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I want to talk about one of the other ways that you can help Space Center Houston. And that is to leave a legacy to us, to Space Center. And what happens is when a donor decides to include Space Center as a beneficiary in their estate plan, they're showing what they believe and they care about the work and the mission of NASA and Space Center Houston. The gift reflects their values and the ideals that matter to them. They're assuring the continuation of these values and that legacy of preserving the history of human spaceflight for the future. It takes many forms. These gifts can be put together for a designated purpose, and most are available to even people of modest means. We recently got a gift that was a gift in a will that someone left us that gives us $6,000 a year. That's all it gives us, which is fine. That $6,000 that we know because of what you guys do allows 1,000 students a year to come visit Space Center. So that's a nice gift that family left. It's a nice legacy. One of the exciting things that's going to be happening that I actually just got a promotion laterally. I was just doing major gifts and smaller gifts, but now I'm doing major gifts and planned gifts. And in 2026, probably we will launch it finally in 2027 for the 35th anniversary. We're going to be launching an inaugural legacy society. And so people who make legacy gifts will be recognized on a wall of honor. They will have special badges and special treatment that they will get. And we hope some of you will think about that and continue to help us move this collaboration forward that we have done. So I want to finish with this beautiful quote by Sally Ride. The stars don't look bigger when you're up in space, she said, but they do look brighter. And I want to thank each and every one of you who are part of the NASA Alumni League for being our brightest stars and for the collaboration that we've had for over 20 years between Space Center Easton and the NASA Alumni League. To learn more, I've got some business cards, but if you have questions, if you want to know some more about what we're talking about, I am here till the beer starts pouring. So, I'm here for a little while, till 4. Anyway, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer, tell you what's going on. Can't answer much about that plane that may or may not come here because I don't really know, and I don't think anybody does right now.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, so for folks who have questions in the room, go ahead and shout it out because the batteries are dead.
Yes, sir.
Mentoring a little bit more, is that a group you're mentoring or individuals? Or
So with the Conrad Challenge.
I'm going to repeat the question. For
Okay,
the
go
folks
ahead.
online. Yeah, so the question asked in the room was about mentoring and whether or not that is for groups or whether it's for individuals.
Okay. So right now we have a couple of different ways, but with the Conrad Challenge, you would be mentoring a team that is putting their project together to hopefully get it to the end stage where it's one of the 200. There are also mentoring opportunities in our education program. We have what we call Girls STEM Pathway, and through the Girls STEM Pathway, we do have what we call mentoring Wednesdays, and we have women who are in STEM fields that come and mentor some of our high school students. And we have just recently started a new program with one of our sponsors that is just STEM pathways, and it's not limited to just girls. It's schools that can bring whole classes to come and go through that program. And when they do that, they also need mentors because they work through certain projects, they work through certain exercises that they go through throughout the semester. So that's also another way. That's through the education department. And so we'd love to have people involved in that as well. If you're interested, you can take my card and I'll get you in touch with the right people. Anybody else?
Questions?
Questions? Yes, sir.
The last time we competed for a shuttle artifact, we lost, and some people attributed it to not having the money and the funds and the plans aligned. Although I think there were some other reasons as well.
That's what I hear.
For your expansion project, are the funds committed for that? Or
we are very blessed because we have had Oh, sorry, she's gonna
Yeah.
repeat the question.
Okay, so the question, and I'm going to shorten it just a little bit, but the question was whether or not the funds for that potential other shuttle coming this way, we said potential, whether or not there are funds that are currently committed to increase the odds of that happening on the second go around.
So there were funds set aside in the bill for both delivering the shuttle to Texas as well as building a facility. In addition, Space Center Houston has been very blessed that over the last 10 years since William Harris has been our CEO, we have had very, very strong financial positions. We just last summer, there were some bonds that were taken out when the building was originally built. I'm standing here, so I'm not bright in the light. And the bonds were paid off not last summer. And as a result, we do have some surplus funds that we are setting aside, not just for that shuttle, but for our facilities master plan. The initial facilities master plan will be for phase one, will be, I'm going to say, the money that we'll need from the general public. It's not really the general public, but from funds other than through us will be about $50 million. And that sounds like a lot of money, right? Okay, but
It's more than I have.
think about the fundraising that has been taking place at Baylor, MD Anderson, A&M, and UT Health Science in the medical center. They each have $2 billion campaigns that they're currently running. So $50 million doesn't sound like a lot when you talk about 4 institutions of those sizes, each looking at easily raising $2 billion. And Rice is another one that's also out there raising those kind of money. So I think we're in good shape. We've been having conversations with potential donors since May, and all of the conversations have come back very positive. That there are people out there ready, willing, and able to support the funds that we need for phase one of the facility master plan. So we're very excited about that. Yes, sir.
If this mythical vehicle ever appears.
Yes.
The experience at the Kennedy Space Center with their shuttle is pretty spectacular. What are you going to do to beat that?
Okay, so the question in
Go
the
ahead.
room is when the shuttle does come to Space Center Houston, right? That was a positive, right?
She said that, I didn't say.
When the shuttle comes to Space Center Houston, how is Space Center Houston going to meet or exceed the type of experience that people currently have at Kennedy Space Center with their shuttle?
We have an incredible guest experience team, many of whom have worked at museums and amusement parks and other facilities like that around the world. And they are going and looking at all of the different options. And from there, we will make a final decision. I think that we'll be looking at Kennedy. One of the things that's been interesting about where the shuttle Discovery currently is that it's at the Uterhazy wing of the Air and Space Museum. That Uterhazy wing is at Washington's Dulles Airport, and it only sees about 500,000 people a year. And one of the comments that was made in the discussion about that is that the goal would be for more people to be able to see an actual shuttle, and that they are already seeing 500,000 people. Well, that's all fine and good, but we're seeing 1.3 million. And so we're already at more than double what they see. And so the goal would be that we would be able to bring it here and have that many more people get to actually feel, touch, and see. Well, not touch, but then but feel and see and experience what a real shuttle is like. And we're very proud of what we have with having the 747 and the trainer. And people can really enjoy those in a unique way. I mean, we use the 747 sometimes for cocktail receptions, and it's a great place to have a cocktail reception that we've had for donors that rent space. They can rent that space. So we'll do it up right. Your Texas, it'll be bigger than anybody ever expects. Huh?
Okay,
Yeah.
other questions in the room? Yes, ma'am.
I apologize, it's a little bit of a devil's advocate question.
Okay.
If I understood you correctly. So right now you're seeing visitors double what the space is designed to hold.
Yes.
But the new plans on what's coming out is only double the size of the current space. So why are we not projecting for future growth? Because it'll immediately be at capacity.
Right. So one of the
So the question
Go ahead.
is, we're currently seeing at Space Center Houston more than double what the facility was originally built for, and yet the expansion plan, the current plans for the expansion only meets what the current visitorship is. And so we're going to hear more about that.
Okay, so one of the things that's going to happen is that right now we don't have as much covered space. And so when we talk about the building had space for 700,000, the building did, not including all the outdoor space. So we can, that's why when we talk about 1.30 million, there are a lot of those people that are either on transfers, they're at Rocket Park, they're at Mocher, they're at Building 9, they're, other places, or they're outside enjoying some of the outdoor facilities that we have. There will be much more covered and air conditioned space than is currently available. And so that it'll double it, but it'll double it for the amount of space that's covered, and we'll still have, let me go back to that slide.
You'll still have people on trams and at Building 9.
Yeah, and if you look, you notice around the very front in here, there'll be a lot more green space. There'll be amphitheaters and covered areas that will be able to be used for picnics and outdoor. Like we have some of our, when we have our Moon to Mars festival, we don't have a lot of outdoor space except for the parking lot.
Where is the parking?
That's
Parking is going to be back here.
right there.
Parking is going to be here. We're going to move it into parking garages. Yes.
That look like 2-story.
Probably more than that. Maybe well, the bottom will be not there because the bottom will be there, but we won't park cars there because we live in Houston, it rains. So it'll be like probably 3 stories, maybe 4 stories. And then there'll be some separate parking kind of back here a little bit. You won't see it. That'll be for the trams, and that'll be for the employees. That'll also be covered. The employees right now, if it rains, we run in the rain. Yeah, I've gotten wet more than a few times. Anyway, but there'll be a lot more, like there is an amphitheater here, and there's this building that some of you were at yesterday, the special events building will be moved a little bit so that we can put some more stuff there.
Okay,
So
more questions?
it's exciting.
Where's the Longhorn back?
It's going to still be there. We are not touching that. We get too many positive compliments, and it is one of the very happy happenstances of what we do because we get a third of our visitors come from Texas. A third of our visitors come from other states in the United States, and a third of our visitors are overseas visitors. So 2/3 of our visitors aren't from Texas and probably have never seen a Longhorn. And boy, can I tell you what they say when they see those?
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh my God, is that what they really look like?" Yeah.
Where is that on that map?
It's like over here.
So the questions are about the Longhorn project,
Yeah.
which is
So that'll be
really,
like over here. It's over by Rocket Park.
yeah,
Yeah, so that Rocket Park is
It's
this
off,
will be the
it's off the
walkway,
screen.
the walk across Rock Park, so you can't
That's
really
gonna
see.
be a long walk.
It'll be a walk, yeah, but there'll be exhibits and it'll be air conditioned, which will be the best.
And you need the steps.
Yeah, yeah,
I was gonna say, maybe a people mover.
yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
at the airports, yeah.
Okay, well, we're continuing to design the space that Space Center Houston has laid out in their phase development plan. We've got a lot of suggestions for how they can make that different or better. Any other questions? Do we have any questions from anybody online? And Dave, if you see anything in the chat, please go ahead and unmute. Take that as a resounding no. Any other questions here in the room?
I
Okay.
answered it all.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'd like to thank you very, very much
You're
for
welcome.
that
Thank you.
presentation. It's always really interesting and exciting to see. We do provide some funds, as Amelia talked about, and it's really always very heartwarming for us to be able to see how those funds are being used and how the legacy that each one of us has built does get to continue to not only the next generation, but, you know, people who just have an interest and a love for what we've done and what we continue to do. So it's about 20 minutes until beer time, but my understanding is that it oftentimes arrives a little bit early. So that's going to conclude our program for today. For next month, for December 3rd, Stokes, keep me out of jail. So we are currently planning a NASA Alumni League social for the evening of December 3rd. So that's it is a Wednesday evening. So that's a dinner as well as a program. I don't know who the speaker is, but Stokes is going to announce that online in the not too distant future.
Well, the speaker will be Julie Kramer White, the head of JSC engineering.
Okay.
Tell us all about the engineering.
Okay, so the speaker is going to be Julie Kramer White. So that'll be our speaker for the social. And then the following day, the program, the NASA Alumni League, the first Thursday program, which would be on December 4th, is currently TBD because there's this silly, there's a government shutdown going on right now, and all of the people that I have reached out to are either not available or they have been instructed not to do any outreach events at this time. So we're a little bit constrained right now. Stay tuned and I will let you know if we do find a speaker for December 4th for the first Thursday program. And with that, I will invite you to all enjoy whatever beverage you can get your hands on this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. If you have any questions that you didn't want to ask, I'm gonna stick around for a little while and wait till the beer gets.
It's probably there
Yeah.
already, so, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was that good? Okay.
Very well.